Hey folks, how's it going? Austin Baumgarten here with Keller Williams Realty Northwest Montana and Hidden Homes Montana, coming to you at the Hidden Homes Show podcast. We're on number 8 right now, and we have a wonderful desk. We have a wonderful guest, Robin Bewley, formerly of Physio of Whitefish. She's a physical therapist and starting her brand new own practice called Full Send Physio. I'm going to give a little bit of background. Welcome to you.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Happy to be here.
Well, thank you for coming in. We want to learn about being a little bit healthier and taking care of ourselves today. And here on the podcast in general, we're always trying to kind of build up and promote people in our community. And you are one. You are a young entrepreneur in the physio world, and so we kind of want to see who you are and what you offer to the Flathead Valley, and just kind of talk about your experience living in the Flathead Valley for a bit.
Awesome.
So we're going to kind of tie that right in. But I want to give a little bit of a background on you, kind of some of your stats, your score sheet. So let's see here. You have a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology and Social Behavior from the University of California, Irvine.
Yep.
Masters of Occupational Therapy and Doctorate of Physical Therapy degree from the University of St. Augustine for Health Sciences in San Marcos, California.
Mm-hmm.
I was named after St. Augustine.
St. Augustine.
Yeah. Did I say it wrong?
It's okay.
Isn't that bad? Like, that's how I was named after him. I love it. Oh, that's great. No, I wasn't. Sorry, Mom. Anyway, back to you.
Wrong saint. That was not actually a saint.
Oh, she got me so good. We're starting off this way. This is going to be a long podcast. Heads up. Board certified orthopedic clinical specialist.
Yeah.
Osteopractor through the American Academy of Manual Therapy, and earned the title Fellow of the American Academy of Manual Physical Therapy in 2021.
Yep.
And a certified Pilates for rehabilitation instructor.
Yeah. Lots
And
of school.
I love that. Yeah, lots of school. And I love the new name, Full Send.
Full send.
Perfect.
Thanks.
It sounds like that's the kind of life you live. We were talking a little bit earlier.
Definitely.
Full send in it. And one of the reasons we know Miss Robin here is she's helped some of our coworkers here at Keller Williams. Also, one of our friends, Katie, Tim, and also the lovely Ryan Norris of the Hidden Homes team, and plenty of other people in the Flathead Valley. I'm sure you're going to recognize her and know her. But the big thing for us is I kind of want to start off just like knowing who you are, kind of a little bit where you came from. And I always start off people because like this wasn't necessarily your first job, I don't think. Yeah, everyone always has a first job, and I like to kind of hear about it because I was a sandwich artist at one point,
Sandwich artist.
And I worked at Subway, and so like I always say like that was like one of my first things, right? And it's always kind of fun to see where people come from.
Are you really an artist though? If they tell you how to make it?
They said it says it on my name tag. It was Austin Baumgarten, sandwich artist.
Okay.
I mean, so it's a real thing.
Sandwich creator.
Yeah, don't worry, I still love myself some Subway. But I want to know a little bit about your background and kind of how you got into physio and like what the purpose of doing that was. So.
Yeah.
Go. It's all you.
That's all me. Oh, boy. So I grew up in Boston, like a little small town outside of Boston, and then moved to California and ended up going to school there. And shortly after we moved to California, my dad unexpectedly passed away. And so that was just like a huge blow to our family. And it was really interesting as like a 13-year-old to see this community that we didn't really know very well because we had just moved to California, just come and support us and give us money. And it was all these people that were like giving us rides and helping us, and it's people I don't know, people I could never like thank or anything, is just like random total strangers, just super kind. And so as a 13-year-old it just hit me, and I knew that I had to have a career where I gave back to people, where I was in some way doing that for somebody else. And so that's how I ended up. I started in psychology, so psychology and social behavior is what I studied in school, and I thought, oh, maybe I'll be like a social worker or do something like that. And then growing up in kind of this like situation, we had like CPS come out on our family a bunch of times, and I was like, oh God, I could never be that side of it. I couldn't be that social worker that makes such a huge decision.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy. And so in college I did an internship, and I worked with kids under the age of 3 that had eating disorders, and I worked with them as like a helper to the physical and occupational therapists. And I was like, this is so strange. How can a 3-month-old have an eating disorder?
Yeah.
And oftentimes it's kids that have like sensory processing. So maybe like the mom was addicted to drugs while she was pregnant, or there was some kind of birth complication, or something wasn't developed completely. And so these kids will have like sensory issues in their mouth where maybe there's not any sensory at all. And so they'll just like shovel all this food and have no idea that there's food even in there. So they start choking, or our tongue is a muscle, and so you're training the kids like how to use the tongue to like put food over the teeth to eat, and just like interesting things like that I never would have ever imagined PT or OT could be.
Yeah.
And so once I finished grad school, or once I finished undergrad, there was an opportunity. I knew I had a degree in psychology, and I was like, well, I don't want to be a social worker anymore. I don't know what to do with this degree. And I was going around the grad fair, and I saw somebody was like, oh, do you like OT or PT? I'm like, I don't know. I'm doing both right now, so I kind of like both. And they're like, well, we have a degree where you can get both. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll do that. So I got my master's and doctorate at the same time at this school, and it ended up being typical PT program is like 2.5 years, and so I did 3.5 years and got both of them.
Wow.
So yeah,
fast tracking.
Yeah, fast tracking, sort of.
No, that's cool though.
Took like 24 units a term and stuff like that. So it kind of led me in that direction. So, and then got out of grad school, and some of my PT friends and I started a business, and we all went to the same school together. We all knew all the same things. So when somebody came in with like a really complicated problem, we didn't really know what to do. We all looked at each other like, well, we have all the same knowledge. And there was no one above us or that had more experience that could kind of give us that direction or help us out. So I ended up going to residency in orthopedics and getting some knowledge from, you basically follow a mentor around, and somebody will come in, a patient, and you'll go over what's kind of going on, and you'll troubleshoot with your mentor, like, well, it could be this or it could be that. And it just helps get you, like, it helps you develop more clinical expertise and clinical knowledge that you would learn more on the job and not from a textbook. And so I did residency for orthopedics for a while, and that's where that certification comes from, the orthopedic clinical specialist. So, yeah,
I was going to say, I mean, I found the same thing in real estate too, or just any of my careers, even just like restaurant management and all that, always having a mentor of some sort, someone to kind of show you and guide you, is like, it's a blessing. It's a really, really beautiful thing to have happen. And it probably just helped excel your career a little bit more. We don't know everything.
We don't.
No, I mean, I can get educated. Yeah,
textbook can't teach you everything. So there's a lot to be said for people that actually have knowledge out in the field. So.
Nice. So did I mean, you're not going to get away from this. Did you happen to have what was your first job?
My first job, it was a lifeguard.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was a lifeguard, and then I was, at the same time, I was also a hostess at Denny's. So.
Oh, nice. Moon's over my hammy.
Yes. I got paid in food, so.
Excellent.
I mean, I got actual money too, but I didn't get like tipped out at the end of the night. I got whatever food I wanted, so.
Awesome.
As like a 15-year-old, I was like, yeah.
Good stuff.
We'll work for food.
How did you choose your school?
St. Augustine or UC Irvine?
Both.
Both. UC Irvine I picked because it was really close, and to like where I lived. It was actually the only school that didn't offer me a full ride scholarship, which was, it seems like foolish to pick a school that was like going to charge me money to go there, but it was really close to my home, so it just made sense. I could like help look after my sister and stuff like that, so it was just like a family decision. And then St. Augustine is the only school that offered that dual program where you could do occupational and physical therapy at the same time. They don't offer it anymore. It was pretty short-lived, but it was the only school that offered that, and it was the only school I applied to. So
nice. Well, that was kind of meant to be then.
Yeah, I was like, I want this.
Awesome. Good stuff. Let's see here. I know we were talking a little bit about Spartan races just a little bit ago too, and kind of the competitive spirit. I know Ryan talks highly of you in that, just like that you have a very competitive spirit. do you mind shining a little bit of light on like what you've done in a kind of the racing world?
Sure.
And maybe tie that into when you had to stop doing Spartan races a few years ago, because that kind of incorporates what you do now.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
can you give a little bit of background about that?
Sure. So when I was 13, I was like, obviously, I mentioned that my dad had passed away, and it was super stressful. I ended up becoming a head of my household at that age. And so I think to deal with the stress, I started running, and just like as an outlet of just to get away and just to think about things and that kind of thing. And I ended up being kind of good at it. And I got my freshman year, I was on the varsity team, and I went to state all 4 years in high school. And then I got offered to run in college, but the college I went to, I got an academic, like we had 3-quarter ride scholarship. So it didn't offer me a full ride, just 3/4. So I ended up, my academics were way more important for school than running. And so I just did running on the side for funsies, and I would do these like silly races and whatnot. And I signed my husband up for this like all women's race, and I didn't know it was an all women's race.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, oops. So we show up, and it was like put on by Roxy, and we show up, and it was like stand up paddle boarding, and it was kind of like a triathlon, but like a Roxy version. And so we show up, and I go to get his bib, and I was like, how come there's no dudes here? And the lady was like, oh, this isn't all women's event, but somebody signed up their husband. I was like, oh, that's terrible.
Didn't even own it.
Didn't tell her.
Did you get lost in the sea of women?
He was like, I don't want to run this. I'm so embarrassed. I was like, no, please run. I paid for you. So I ran with him during this race, and at the very end, like right before I'm crossing the finish line, he pulls me backwards so that he crosses the finish line before me. So
what?
Here's this like all women's race, and he's like, no, woman, not you. Like, I'm crossing before you. So it was really funny.
Wow.
I thought it was hilarious. He got booed, but I thought it was funny.
That's all that matters.
So as payback, he signed me up for Spartan races, and he signed me up for a trifecta.
Okay.
Because it had 3 parts, and then he had to do 3 parts in this Roxy race. And he knew that I hated Spartan-type races because I didn't like it when my shoes got wet, and I had to run in wet shoes.
And that's a definite.
Yeah, they get muddy, and they're expensive, and so our first Spartan race was in LA. It was the sprint out in Castaic, and ran that and did pretty well. And then we traveled to like Utah and Seattle, Montana, went to Washington, like another area of Washington, and just kind of went around doing all these Spartan races, and got like double trifectas, and ended up racing for them in world championships for their Ultra Beast, and got on their endurance side. Did like hurricane heats, 12-hour races, the first 24-hour race that they put on in Seattle, and so, which was fun, but yeah. Kinda.
So what's funny when you're saying this, because like I was like really proud of myself for doing a trifecta, and I remember watching like the people at the hurricane heats and the 24-hour races, and I was like, those people are crazy. Like I was just like watching, I was like, never. Like I'm never doing that, and you do those.
Yeah,
like,
we would do
wild.
them after like the Montana Beast or the Montana Sprint. Then we would go do the hurricane heat because they would start like after.
Sorry, like I know what that is. Like I know exactly like what that is. People that know Spartan, like know what she's doing. Oh my gosh, that's wild.
It was fun. Actually, the Montana one was really cool because there was an elk herd that had gone through, and it was before they had put the spears on a string. And so they had the volunteers out there, and during the spear throw, and they're like, stop throwing, don't throw any, because we had this like random elk herd just like run through the course.
Whoa.
And it was before all the spears had strings on them. So
that could have been deadly.
I mean, if someone was good.
you could have had some meat later on.
Yeah, maybe.
Totally.
Not me. I can't hit that hay bale. There's no way.
So did Spartan have anything to do with you stopping running for a little while, or I mean?
Yeah, I got during World Championships. It was in Tahoe, and so you go from basically the village of Squaw to the top, and you do it twice for the Ultra Beast, and it's like 10,000 foot elevation gain, which I hadn't been training at elevation, and I ended up getting rhabdomyolysis, which is like basically your muscles break down and it releases an enzyme that your kidneys can't filter, and so I went into like kidney failure and liver damage, and I had no idea. Like I was running, and at mile 34 I was like, I don't feel good, and then in my mind I'm like, well, you don't feel good. Nobody feels good running this many miles, and you have 2 more to go, so keep going. And so I kept going and got second in my age group and 7th overall, and then ended up in the ER like a day later.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So did that take a bit to recoup?
It did, and I think it was more of like a mental game because I didn't have any of the normal symptoms of rhabdo. They call it, like in CrossFit land, they call it Uncle Rhabdo. It's like if you do like 200 squats or something, then like you'll really feel it, and kind of a thing. It's like from overtraining and just exerting yourself too hard. And I didn't have any of those symptoms, so I didn't really know. So I never knew when I was pushing myself too hard, and I never knew when I was like at that threshold. And so it was more of like a mental block for me, because they always say like your mind will give up before your body does. And for me, my body was like, I'm hurting. And my mind is like, just keep going. And so it was difficult to start training after that. And I haven't done a Spartan race since.
Okay. Did you, I guess the question is, so did you have to use physical therapists to kind of come back from that, or was that just kind of a healing process of time and all that?
No, I was already practicing as a physical therapist during it, like while I was racing and that kind of thing. I didn't, there wasn't really any true guidance on like how to come back from it either. Like my doctor was like, you can start training again when your bruises fade, because I was just like covered in bruises.
Yeah, totally.
And so there wasn't a ton of guidance. I didn't really know.
So they didn't really give you a physical therapist to work with?
No.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Would you have changed that diagnosis, if you look back a few years? Like have someone help guide you in the right direction?
I think I would have maybe taken on like a running coach or something like that instead, so that I could, and I probably definitely would have trained more at elevation. I think too, and maybe I don't know if it's true for you with Spartan races, but it's kind of like a weekend event. Like you just like make a weekend out of it and like go there and race, and it's kind of hard to. It's like that weekend warrior that you like go out and you get injured, and then you're like, I need my PT.
And then you heal.
Yeah.
It's like, and it takes a lot longer to heal than that 6 hours it takes to, or hopefully not 6 hours. It took me 6 hours one time to do the races, but good stuff.
Not bad.
No.
It's not bad. It's
Well,
healing.
no, we don't need to talk about my times. They were good one year. The other 2 years aren't that great, but other than that, awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So let's circle back around a little bit and talk about how you actually ended up in Montana.
Okay.
Basically what brought you here.
So I met my husband when I was 10, and when I moved to California, he was like babysat by my next door neighbor. And his family has a vacation, it was like their second home is here in Kalispell. And so we started dating when we were 16, and I came up with them and their family here for the summer, and just fell in love with Montana. It reminded me of like where I grew up outside of Boston, and it's just like this cute little community that takes care of each other. And growing up outside of Boston, my mom forgot to like pick us up from school one day, and this guy was like, are you Lois's twins? And we're like, yes. Like, do you want to ride home? Like, okay. And that would totally happen here, and that would never happen in Southern California. Or if it did, you don't get in that car.
That's true.
So Montana was just like, it was just so pretty, and the people were super nice and genuine, and it's just like this community that kind of took care of each other. And it was like everything I missed about Boston. So when I came up here, I was like, I'm going to move here one day. And then I got lucky enough for PT school. You get sent on these random internships, and you don't have a say of where you go. And I got sent to Kalispell. And so I got to actually work with ortho rehab. They're like a really great PT clinic in town, and got to work with them as a student, and I loved it, and I loved living here. I was here during the summer. Who doesn't love Montana in the summer?
Of course.
And so I was kind of hooked, and then I kept coming up in the winter to go snowboarding, and it was great. We went one time at Christmas, and the locals were like, it's so crowded, and we waited in line for like 3 minutes. And we were so used to Big Bear and Mammoth where you wait in line for like an hour and a half, and we're like, wow, 3 minutes, and they're complaining? Like, we love it here.
For like one run.
Yeah.
No, I've done that before.
Yeah, so we were like, oh, this is pretty sweet. So I actually had the opportunity to move up here full-time like 3 years ago. So
Awesome.
took it. Yeah.
Took it. And have you been with Physio Whitefish
Yeah.
since then?
Yeah.
Nice.
So I was doing Pilates for rehab, and I was getting Pilates hours where you watch Pilates, like certain Pilates. And Delia Pilates in town in Whitefish, she was super nice and let me shadow her and get some hours. And she had Physio Whitefish. They shared the same space, and so I had asked her about it, like, oh, you guys have a PT clinic here? And I reached out to Physio Whitefish, and it was just really good timing because Devin, the owner of Physio Whitefish, was going out on maternity leave and having her first baby. And so then I offered to come in and kind of take over the clinic and take over her clients while she went on maternity leave. And so within a weekend, I had moved all of my stuff up here and started work. So for
Nice.
Physio Whitefish, yeah, and I've been there ever since. So
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Now you're branching out on your own.
I am, yeah,
Nice.
which is scary but exciting.
Nice. Well, I mean, it's fun to have the entrepreneurial spirit,
Yeah.
and see people grow, you know,
Yeah.
and especially in a place they love.
Yeah.
So along those lines, you've had a little bit of time to see the community grow around you recently, and there's been some, obviously it's been a while the past few years specifically. What do you think since you've showed up is the biggest change in the community around you?
Biggest change, I think, would just be the amount of development is probably the biggest change I've seen. I remember when there was no Target and no Starbucks, and Glacier High School hadn't been built yet and stuff like that. So, because I remember when I was in high school, we were joking if we moved up here then, we would just go to Flathead because it was the only high school that they had. And it's kind of cool to see Glacier having been built and Costco relocate to where it's at now, and just see the community kind of grow. There are some things that are a little concerning, I think, in how rapidly it's growing. I think, like, if you go to Bozeman and stuff, they have all of these really, like, all these shopping centers and stuff like that, but they've maintained a bunch of green space and a bunch of parks and things like that, so it doesn't feel all cement and like congested. And like right here in Kalispell, it feels like, I call it consumption junction, because it's just like everything all at once, and they took away a ton of like green space and things like that. And I feel like people come to Montana to be in nature and like be around all that green space, and they're turning it into maybe like wherever they came from.
Yeah, well, there's a mix too with that. I mean, we have a lot of space. It's just the way I think that things can be developed a little bit smarter.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes, and it's just not, I mean, it's probably not in just our community, being like a microtropolis, but it's that growing pain is always pretty difficult.
Yeah.
First of all, but people sometimes will not make the infrastructure the way
Yeah.
it needs to be first. They'll just like grow first and then fix the problem.
Yep.
And I think, I've seen Kalispell over the past like 21 years make some really great moves forward, but also some steps backwards.
Yeah.
And, I think that's like, I think any community that's growing at the pace we are is going to make those blunders. But
Yeah.
I agree with you. Like, I come here to look at the beautiful views and hike the beautiful mountains and do every
Yeah.
single thing that the Flathead Valley has to offer. I mean, there's everything. If you like to be in the outdoors, this is the place to be.
Yeah, definitely.
100%. And so.
And I think that was super fun. It was really rewarding in physical therapy too, was that the people, like my patients, want to recreate. They want to be out exploring. They want to be hiking. They want to be fishing. They want to be out skiing and like doing things. And that's because you have all of this outside your front door to like go do that. So I feel like there's like a really good balance between play and work. So people definitely value work, and they, they value hard workers and things like that, but they love to go out and recreate and play too. And there's like a really good mix of both of that here. Like, whereas California, I felt like people just work, and then for what at the end of the day? Like, you just only play on the weekends.
Yeah.
You know, here it's like you get out of work and you're like, well, I'm gonna go bike going to the Sun Road. You know.
Oh yeah, because it's light till 10:30.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
and you can, and it's right there. Or like I'm gonna go run the Whitefish Trails because they're right there.
Exactly. Oh, that's a really, really good point. Well, the community, I was going to say, community's been growing. I don't think we can really necessarily stop that, but I think that, having people be aware that those, the changes need to be a little bit smarter.
Definitely.
And it needs to be, well thought out.
I think
that's
too,
a huge, huge part of it.
It's interesting because I heard that these developments can come in and make, housing developments with like 400 units or whatever, but they don't have to take into consideration the impact that would have on the school system. And there's already like a 3-year wait list for preschool and things like that. So it's interesting that those things aren't married together, that's not something that's like maybe thought about ahead of time, or that doesn't have to be discussed ahead of time before a giant development goes in, because that's going to have a big impact on not just like our infrastructure of our streets and our fire departments and things like that, but also our education system. And
it's everything.
Yeah.
It's grocery store shelves.
Yeah.
You look at everything. I mean, it's you can see that change. I think I was laughing. I went to Smith's the other night, and it's hard to go to Smith's on Sunday night, but it's like the most quiet time. But then you don't get anything
because it's
so
empty.
I went in there. I was like, my favorite chips aren't here. Well, yeah, but if you go early in the morning, then chips are there. So it's just anyway. We can laugh all day about that because it's true. Everyone's dealing with it, and I always say through pain is growth.
Yes.
And we're going to have some of those growing pains, no matter what. But no matter what, the Valley, like, I'm not leaving. Like,
yeah,
I say, like, this is the place I want to be, forever. And I know my kids do, too, which is kind of funny. Like, I actually talked to my 14-year-old, 16-year-old, and I can tell they're going to, like, stay living with us as long as they possibly can.
Well, why not?
Or they just want to be away from us but stay here because they just love doing everything, sailing, hiking, skiing, all that stuff. So it's really nice to be able to do that here with your kiddos and families.
You can do that all right here. Like, you want the mountains, great. You want the lake, great. You want to hike, it's right here too. Like,
exactly.
You don't have to go far or travel too far for any of it.
When it comes to, I was going to say, are you a homeowner right now?
I'm not.
You're not a homeowner. So, we were talking about, don't worry, we were already talking about that. But, so you had an experience, you were trying to purchase within the past few years.
Mm-hmm.
And I know as a realtor, what's been happening and all that stuff. Do you mind sharing a little bit of your experience?
Well, I was going to joke that your kids are going to have to live with you because unless they can drop $1 million for their first house, they will be staying with you until they're 34. So
34, that's the magical age. Okay,
yeah,
cool. Phew, not 18, you still almost have to double it.
Hopefully, let's cross my fingers. I'm 34 now, so hopefully I get a house. Yep. But yeah, during 2020, I was trying... it was right before the pandemic. It was right when the pandemic hit. Cause I remember having to wear like booties to like walk into these houses and tour them because we didn't know how people were getting COVID, I guess, or something. I don't know. So I had to wear booties on my shoes and a mask. But it was really difficult. I was the second person. It went up on Zillow. Within 7 minutes, I contacted my realtor and I was like, hey, let's go look at this house. And he was on it and talked to the people. And like that day, we were able to go tour it. I was the second person there to tour this house and gave them full price that they were asking, wrote a letter, did all the things just to let them know, like, hey, I live here, I work in town, I'm not trying to flip this house or anything like that. And it was just so super competitive. Like, it needed a new roof and it needed work and all these things, and it went like 50 over asking, and we went with somebody else, and it just like kept hitting that over and over again. I'd put in, like, Tim would send me something and I'd put in like, okay, full price, whatever they want, and then it would just go to cash. And I'm like, oh, dang, take a chance on my financing.
Yeah.
So well, I had student loan debt.
How many offers do you think you ended up putting in altogether?
I put in 3. Yeah. Okay. So I did like 1 on just land and then 2 on houses, and just after that, I was like, something would pull up, or I'd hear about it, and it was under contract, like before it even hit Zillow, or like once it was on Zillow, it was like instantly under contract, and I was like, oh crap. So.
Well, and that just got that perpetuated all the way through 2021.
Yeah.
You know, and into part of 2022 as well. So like, yeah, I mean, I get it. It's emotional though.
Well,
like,
and it felt like too, like it felt like you had to know about it before it ever hit anything, and so it was just like, how do you get to that point where you know about it before it hits the market or before it hits Zillow or before, and I just didn't feel like I had that in to know like when that was going to happen, or I didn't know the people that were doing that, and so.
Well, that makes sense. Well, and the thing is, I mean, in Montana, we're not allowed to like disclose that until we actually go on the market, because they call it a pocket listing. But what what ended up happening too is that, you know, there was just so many people, and it wasn't just all cash. People do cash, but everyone had to get so creative at that time too with how to write offers for people. But then the truth is, like, sometimes people weren't being protected the way they should be, but they were okay with it because they really wanted a house.
Yeah.
They wanted to move here. They wanted to move from, you know, if it was a vertical living city or just a big city, if it was political. There's just so many different reasons people want to come to Montana, on top of the fact that Montana is one of the most beautiful places to live.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you know, perpetuate that by usually we have double the buyers of other places. This time it was like 4.
Yeah.
So that's what you're competing with.
Yeah, and when it felt like too, like this was maybe their second home or their third home, and they were already selling a home somewhere else and had all of this money to roll into it. And I'm like, hey, I make Montana wages. I'm trying to buy a Montana house that's now like twice as much as it used to be. And so it was a little bit challenging with that. And then like, I think people were really creative with their pictures, and that was one thing I learned, like, searching that, because
I've seen that before.
Yeah, I would go out, and I was like, wow, this house is so pretty, and then I'd get there, and I'd be like, there's literally a junkyard right next door. Like, why didn't anybody say anything?
But the pictures are from the left, and it was right on the edge of the fence.
Yeah.
And we didn't see the electrical lines that are right above it, or
there's like a water tower like in the yard, and I was like, okay,
That's
kids,
funny.
don't climb on the water tower. Like, what?
Yeah.
And so I really learned that you had to go and actually look at the property. You couldn't just sight unsee, like, buy something. Like, one of them we had to like cross a creek, and this bridge was literally made out of pallets, and I was like, is this gonna hold my car? Like, what if like it breaks and then my car's in the creek? And it was just a disaster. So we learned a lot. Definitely things look better on the internet than they do in real life. So
No, I at least say you're being smart that way too.
I feel bad for the people that bought things sight unseen, because they were probably like, there's a propane tank or like a septic tank or something like right here.
Well, what's funny about that too, I mean, we could talk about that, because actually I ended up selling, I think in 2020 and going 2021, probably 6 sight unseen homes, but it depends on how you do it. Like, so, I mean, we always did it. I always did it like where I actually would do like FaceTime or Zoom calls, and we'd walk through houses, the entire property, for like an hour and a half. You know, go down the crawl space, like looking at things with like just showing them. I mean, that's the best we could do at the time, right? And luckily, I don't think there was one person that wanted to sell their house within 6 months after purchasing it, but it wasn't because they didn't love the house. It's because they had a job at the hospital and something fell through, and so they had to move to Texas. But it was like they bought it and they sold it, and the appreciation they made, it was better than their full-time job. Like, I mean, isn't that crazy? Like 2020 to 2021. Anyway,
I believe it though. The prices went up so high. Like, even some of the ones we were looking at, like, originally our budget was like $400,000 to $500,000, and then that quickly became like, you need $1 million, and it was just like, what? Like, I make Montana wages. Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, that's the pain of a lot of people, you know, locals and stuff like that. The good news is, I mean, like, and I've just been watching the market quite a bit. We just did a couple market reports recently, is that things are softening a bit. You know, having the interest rates go up, which is not beneficial necessarily for everyone either.
But I'd rather have the interest rates go up and the prices go down, because you can always refinance it.
Exactly.
So.
She's smart. She knows exactly what she's talking about. I love it. Good stuff. No, thank you for sharing about that, and hopefully someone can get you into a home in the near future,
yes,
if you desire.
So. I'm hoping so.
You know, we'd always love to apply for the job.
I have something in the works, I think. So.
Oh, well, she's looking at someone we know. That's funny.
Winky.
Let's see here. I love it. Let's see. So, Have you had any kind of community involvement? Been on any boards or anything like that in your past, nonprofits and stuff like that?
Well, here I help out with the Whitefish cross country team,
Oh,
and
okay.
so yeah, help out with working with the high schoolers and all that. It's super fun. They're hilarious and
I
fun to
bet.
work with. Yeah.
Is it like freshmen through seniors or?
Yeah, and it's really interesting here coming from California. Like I ran cross country in California, and our season starts in like July, and we get to run all the way to December. And here, their season is like August to October, and that's it. Like because it
Yep.
snows usually at their like state race, which is like right around Halloween, and there's already snow on the ground, and these kids are hardy. They're running these races and they're running their workouts, and it's snowing and it's freezing cold, and they're just like not sissies. And so it's just interesting because California it, like rains, and we're like, oh, we have to cancel, and these kids are running in like 30-degree weather, and they're like, this is great.
I love it. They're kind of born and
They're
bred. They know what
hardy.
they're doing.
Yeah.
Totally, our blood's a little bit thicker now.
Yeah,
right?
definitely. They're
For
not
sure.
whiners, so.
Good stuff. No, I'm glad you're able to contribute to the high school kids. Like that's huge.
Yeah, it's fun, and it's just something that was like running was super important to me, and it was like my stress relief. And it's really hard to like go through high school and try to figure out going to college and all these things, and managing relationships with your family and your friends and all that stuff. And so I think running is the community you make with running is good, and then just running itself is like a good outlet too, and like a
It's
healthy outlet.
determination. Like people, I mean, successful people run.
Yeah.
Like that's just a reality because what it does to your brain and how good it is it's all the good stuff.
It is. It's all the good stuff.
Awesome. Cool. Let's talk about since you're starting a new business, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Send it Physio.
Full send.
Send it to the fullest. Send it Physio.
Full
send.
send.
I didn't look
Full
down. I didn't
send
look down
Physio.
here. Full send Physio. Fantastic name. So what are you going to be offering people? Is there anything creative you're going to be offering people? And we're obviously getting into how to find you and all that stuff too. But
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about that.
So obviously I'm an orthopedic specialist, and another PT, Caitlin, she's going to be there too. She's an orthopedic specialist. And so we'll be offering kind of those assessments. And orthopedic injuries are like bone, muscle, tendon injuries, that kind of thing. And then spinal manipulation, that's the osteopractor side of things. Dry needling, which is similar to acupuncture but different intent.
Okay.
And then we're going to have like treadmills for running assessments, and a squat rack so to load patients appropriately, because oftentimes you'll go and the patients just aren't loaded enough. Like you need, for instance, let's say you have some kind of something going on, go in and assess it and get your range of motion going. But once you have a brand new range of motion, you need to train it. You need to train your body in that new range because it hasn't had it yet. And so you have to load the body in that range to help maintain it. So I think I don't want to like talk crap on other professions and things like that, but that's why certain things are not long lasting, because they'll get you the range or get you where you're at, and then they don't train your muscles on how to keep you there or how to stay there.
Well, no, I mean, I've had physical therapy before too, and it's like you might get realigned in some way, even if it's chiropractic or physio or whatever. But then your brain has been doing that, like maybe it's been catering to your body's compensation. That's the word I'm looking for so long that it just wants to pop back.
Yeah.
And the physical therapist was always like, and I'd be like, I don't know, I'm getting back to this range. She's like, stop.
Yeah.
You need to. This is how you need to walk. We need to get you adjusted back, and it's that constant rebuilding to retrain your brain, right?
Definitely. Well, your body will always pick the path of least resistance, just like anything else. And so if it's accustomed to a certain way, it's going to go back to that way. And that's why you have to retrain. And it takes time. It takes like loading. It takes consistency. It takes time to get it back to where it needs to be, so it can avoid going into that comfortable compensation pattern.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so with loading, clarify, like, are you talking about like loading weight? Or
yeah, loading weight, like loading the tendons, loading the joints, because that will give your body all of that feedback. Because your body inside the joints, are receptors that need that feedback in order to send it to your brain to be like, this is where I am in space. This is what's happening to me, so that it can keep it there. Because without that input, it's just like, wee, I'm better. But then it's like not long lasting.
Well, I think, I mean, your profession is just going to keep growing. I mean, I have seen a lot of physio just, around the valley in general, growing just because, I mean, it's not a take a quick pill and fix it, mask it, all those different things. Like, physio is needed for so many different things for people, for almost everything.
But it's also really something you have to put the work into. The patient does. It's not one of those things that's like, fix me. And it's like, well, it's not a passive thing. You have to take an active role in your own healthcare.
Yeah.
And so.
An active role in your own healthcare. You have to work?
Yeah, you have to work.
All right, fine.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's see here. I always ask this question because it's still like my favorite place to be, like Glacier National Park. Mm-hmm. What does Glacier National Park mean to you? And then what have you done over there?
It's pretty much the prettiest park I've been to. But every year for Mother's Day, we'll ride Going to the Sun Road.
Nice.
Just as far as we can get, whatever happens to be open at that point, and then we'll try again for 4th of July. So sometimes the road opens before that, and I never go when there's cars because it's kind of crazy. And then sometimes it opens after 4th of July, which is nice. And then just kind of hiked all around, like during the pandemic was super fun because there was a lot of people just kind of took time. There wasn't this like huge hustle and bustle, and a lot of people, had time off of work or had a little bit of a break, which is kind of nice. And we ended up hiking like 150 miles in Glacier. And
what? Whoa.
Yeah, for the whole month of August, just like hiking all around whatever we could. And we did a couple hikes twice just because it was so fun. And
beautiful.
Yeah, it was just really pretty. We didn't run across any crazy wildlife. I did see a wolverine, which was
that's rare.
Crazy. I didn't know what it was. I Googled it when I got home because I was like, flat bear with giant claws. This wolverine came up.
They can travel like 100 miles in a day.
They're nuts. They're super fast. And
or more.
They have like crazy claws, but they look like pancake bears. They're just like flat.
Pancake bears. That's going to be the nickname for them now.
Flat bear. Pancake bear.
Hey, at least it showed up. Thanks, Google.
Yeah, I was like, well, maybe this bear lived in a really confined rock space and it could only grow this big.
Oh my gosh,
that was great. Not the case. So sorry.
No,
I'm only smart in some ways.
That's right. We all have our specialties.
Yeah, animal identification is not mine.
That's right. You can help people when they hurt themselves on the trail looking at those animals.
Yeah.
Bird watchers.
Yeah, I saw a grouse for the first time. I was like, look, baby turkeys. That is not a baby turkey.
No. So. Well, that's awesome. I'm glad you got to. What was your favorite hike out of all of them? Do you know the name?
We hiked from Jackson Overlook to Lake McDonald.
Perfect. That's
and so
a great one.
Going through Gunsight and then going through Lake Ellen Wilson. That's where we saw the wolverine.
Okay.
It was really pretty. There's a bunch I still want to go out and do, but that one, I think because it was so secluded and we were the only ones on the trail, I think it was just super fun.
Yeah, beautiful.
It was just really nice. And it was so cute. There was little baby goats, and there's that waterfall by Lake Ellen Wilson, and they were playing in the waterfall, and it was really cute to just eat lunch and watch them play in the waterfall.
That is the best show on earth.
Yeah.
That's why I love Glacier.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. That's cool. Literally, kids were playing.
Oh,
oh, yeah. Well,
should we call it?
Anyway, I don't need to explain it to everyone that a kid is a baby goat.
Well, maybe they're not good with animals.
I don't know.
Maybe they did need that.
Oh, my gosh. Anyway, I think this has been great. This has been absolutely fantastic. Robin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's been great. And I really wish you luck in your new venture.
Thank you.
That's awesome that you're going to just get that going. And there's going to be a huge need for people. I know a bunch of people that need help with that as well, and all the people that are moving here are going to need your help as well.
Well, it's really cool too. We're right at the we have views of Big Mountain, and it's a huge. I'm a snowboarder. My friend is a partner is a skier and stuff like that. So just full send. Just get out there. Give it your all. Live your best life.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
An inspirational speech. How do we find you? How do we find your business?
So we have a website, fullsendphysiomt.com.
Okay.
And we'll have an Instagram up and stuff soon.
Soon?
Soon.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Gonna be all over the place.
It's Full Send Physio is our Instagram, but yeah.
I think it's going to, I mean, Full Send is going to cater to the extreme people.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Definitely.
I love
It has like a retro vibe a bit to it and some neon colors and things like that, but just vibrant and just...
No, thank you for joining me. This has been a great show. Like I said before, folks out there, please. I mean, more people from the community. We would love to have people like Robin here to be able to share what they offer in the community. I know some people might need some help out with some physical therapists. This is obviously the young lady to do it. And otherwise, folks, it's been another great Head and Home show. Like I said, please like us on Spotify, Apple Music. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. That would be huge. Leave a direct message down below. Feel free to email us at hiddenhomesmontana@gmail.com. I'm sure Ryan's going to put all the stuff in there to make sure you can get a hold of us. Otherwise, this has been another great show. Like I said before, I really appreciate you joining us. Austin Baumgarten with Keller Williams Realty Northwest Montana and Hidden Homes Montana. Over and out.
Thank you.
Appreciate it so
Thanks.
much. And then I went down to the sprint.
So you know trifecta this year?
No.
No.
Don't worry. It's on my bucket list. Actually, we have like 4 extra tickets right now because I bought a bunch for other people and no one showed up. No one ended up coming.
Oh, so you have tickets to use.
So we could do I don't know. I could do a beast, but I'd be really hurting.
Oh.
You know,
Well,
like
too bad you don't know PT.
Oh my gosh, I know one. His name Robin Bewley. We're recording, right? See, just talking. I know a PT. You know what's going on? We're gonna be all right.
It'll be okay.
All right, perfect. Anyway.